Since the coronavirus outbreak was declared a pandemic, hundreds of thousands of businesses have been forced to shut their doors. Some permanently. Entrepreneurs across America have had to face the uncertainty of the worst economic crisis in decades. While minority-owned businesses have been disproportionately affected, Black-owned businesses suffered the most, declining by twice the rate of white-owned businesses. Systemic problems surrounding the economic gap aren't new. African American-owned firms have historically struggled to get started and stay afloat. Getting approved for loans and receiving federal support can be nearly impossible for many. From 2007 to 2017, more than half of Black-owned companies got turned down for loans, a rate twice as high as white-owned businesses, according to the Federal Reserve. In the summer of 2020, the murder of George Floyd sparked a renewed interest in the economic advancement of Black people. Businesses owned by people across the African diaspora saw huge surges in sales as people poured out in support.
It was very bittersweet for me because almost immediately I saw a surge in sales during that time last summer. And so there was this part of me that was extremely excited to see, so much support. On the other hand, it was very saddening that it had to come off of the heels of someone dying.
So why do Black entrepreneurs continue to lag behind whites and other minority groups in terms of market share? And what will it take to keep them in business? It can be difficult for any business to succeed, but Black entrepreneurs have historically faced unique challenges. Congress passed the Freedmen's Bureau Act in 1865, awarding compensation to freed slaves in the form of 40 acres and a mule. After President Lincoln's assassination, this bill, meant to help freed slaves gain financial stability, was rescinded. The legacy of slavery and Jim Crow left African Americans at a lasting economic disadvantage. Without an equal footing, poverty continued to cycle through descendants of those slaves, creating a long history of wealth inequality.
What you see is that the median level, or the kind of 50th ranked white family in the US, has $170,000 in their net worth. When you compare that to the average Black family in the US, what you see is that same, comparable Black family has $10,000. So these levels of inequality, you can see business ownership or business success is kind of at that high end where we see just enormous amounts of inequality, especially when we start looking at revenues or employment size or the scale of the business.
While America has a long history of Black entrepreneurship, it also has a history of racism and violence that systematically undermined efforts of African Americans to get ahead in the business world. Several exclusively Black communities were home to thriving businesses in the post-Reconstruction era. The Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma became widely recognized as Black Wall Street, an affluent Black community, ripe with businesses, banks, and educated professionals. But in June 1921, the entire town was bombed and burned to the ground by a white mob.
And what happened was just that Black businesses did not have the money to recover after they were targeted, after they were attacked, after they were burned down to the ground, and in the system of oppression, as well as these notions of fear. And so you have this desire, of course, to rebuild, but with what resources? So it wasn't just individuals who were targeting businesses. You had the cops who refused to protect these businesses. You had the judicial system that refused to prosecute. And so it just really wasn't safe for African Americans to continue to be entrepreneurs in this climate.
The hope for Black wealth in America burned, stripping families of their opportunity to create generational wealth.
Having a family background in business is really important. So for example, if your parents are business owners, you're twice as likely to be a business owner yourself than someone who doesn't have parents that are business owners. Now, if you go back, a generation or two generations, if you have low business ownership rates then it gets kind of passed along to future generations. And so that creates this kind of barrier that you don't have that family business experience.
Real estate is one of the most common ways to build wealth in America, but discriminatory housing practices have historically kept Black Americans out of the game. Starting in the 1930s, the Federal Housing Administration refused to insure homes in African American neighborhoods. This is known as redlining.
What would be the reaction of the community to a Negro family moving in?
Oh, I don't think they'd like it.
Black people were kept out of the newly developing suburban neighborhoods and pushed into urban housing projects. Modern-day redlining still exists. According to 2020 data from the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, Black applicants are denied mortgage loans at a rate 80% higher than white applicants. These events laid the groundwork for the increasing wealth gap in America. It is still more difficult for African American entrepreneurs to get and stay in business. About 6.5 million businesses are launched in the United States each year. There are 6 different types of businesses to file under. Each of these defines how a company will handle taxes, liabilities, ownership, and finances. There are 30.2 million small businesses in the U.S. They make up about 99% of all businesses, but only a fraction of them survive. 20% of small-owned businesses fail by the first year, 30% by the second, 50% by the 5th, and by the 10th year, a staggering 70% of businesses have shut off their lights.
Some of the most common challenges, though, that do precipitate a business closure relate to fundamental issues, lacking a firm business plan and a concrete business plan with real clear strategic direction, and getting some of the fundamentals in place at the onset.
For minorities, the numbers can be even more daunting. 8 out of 10 Black-owned businesses fail within the first 18 months. And despite making up 17.6 and 13.2% of the population, Hispanics and Blacks make up 5.8 and 2.1 of all employer businesses, or in other words, businesses with paid employees. For reference, white employers make up 88% of overall sales and control 86.5% of U.S. employment, according to the Small Business Administration. Lack of capital is the biggest challenge for African American small business owners, and studies show that Black-owned firms have weaker ties with banks. According to a 2019 survey by the New York Fed, fewer than 1 in 10 Black non-employer firms have a recent relationship with a bank, compared with 1 in 4 white-owned non-employer firms. And less than 47% of financing applications filed by African American business owners get approved. According to evidence from the survey, the discrepancies aren't due to Black entrepreneurs applying for financing at a lower rate. Black-owned firms apply for bank financing just as much as white-owned firms, if not more. 28% of Black-owned non-employer firms applied for financing in 2018, compared to 25% of white non-employers. The difference? Black applicants are denied at a higher rate.
I decided that I'd come on and tell you guys the truth on why people don't support Black businesses. And everybody's not going to agree with what I have to say, and that's fine. I really don't care. But I wanted to give you guys some truth that's based off of facts and not necessarily off of opinion, or based off of emotion, or based off of just the tension that has existed in the Black community in general. Y'all just excuse me, I'm starving and I'm eating my my afternoon snack or evening snack, which is some, let me give Lighthouse a shout out, because they have this great low-fat caramel dip. So I'm eating some apples and low-fat caramel dip. But back to the task at hand. I want to tell you guys the truth about why people don't support Black businesses. First of all, let me say this. Business is business. Bad business is just business, and bad business is just bad business. It doesn't matter whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're orange, purple, green, Hispanic, Indian, it really doesn't matter as far as business is concerned, because business is just business. And I think that a lot of times we want to take everything so personally, and I'm not saying that there may not be a situation where people just aren't supporting Black businesses because they are Black businesses. I can say that, that can definitely be the truth in some instances, because I see a lot of videos where people are saying that they're not supporting Black businesses because, they're just doing horrible business. And bad business is just bad business. It doesn't matter who it's coming from, and so I've been to Asian establishments that had bad service. I've been to white establishments, Black establishments. I've been to pretty much every type of business that has had bad business practices. So it's really not just a Black thing. We've been programmed to think that, to associate Black or African American with being, negative. It's a negative connotation. So I want to give you guys some facts and, tell you guys the true reason why people just are not supporting black businesses. First of all, in order to create a sustainable and not only a sustainable but a well-recognized brand, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of know-how. And primarily when people are starting businesses, and this is not just the African American community, but when people are starting businesses, they are starting them because they already are financially challenged, and they're seeing this as a reason or as a way, a means of getting out of that rut that they're in. And so a lot of times they don't have the money for marketing, they don't have the money for advertising, and they don't have the know-how, because to be totally honest with you, you can make a huge effect with a small amount of money if you go out and do the research and take the time to, make those moves. But for the most part, for all the big brands and, all of the so-called white companies that are getting all of the black dollar, it's because they have the budget to go out and place these ads, in magazines, to put commercials on television, to strategically place their brand or their product and their service somewhere that is going to capture you, and program you basically into getting that product or service. And so for the most part, I see, not only just working with black businesses, because I work with all kinds of businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs, that most don't take the time or don't even acknowledge that marketing and advertising is going to be a very, very important part of their business. How do I support you if I don't even know that you exist? How do I support you if I don't even know that you exist? And I'm not talking about the mom and pop company, the mom and pop businesses that are, your corner market, grocery store, or fish fry, little spot, or whatever the situation may be. I'm talking about just black businesses and just businesses across the spectrum. How do I know that you exist if there's no way of you telling me? If you're not marketing properly, if you're not advertising properly, if you're not putting the word out that you are open for business, you can't be mad that I don't know that you exist, and so I'm not supporting you. Because I tell you, I am one of the biggest supporters of black businesses. I'm one of the biggest supporters of entrepreneurs in general, because I know that you need that extra kick. I know that you need that extra push. I know that you need to get some profit to get ahead. But a lot of people are not using their profits properly. They're not setting aside a budget, a large enough budget. I'd say you have $100 in your business. I would say take 70 of those dollars and put that into marketing and advertising. Advertising is very strategic, and anybody with a business has to be strategic. You have to know who your customer is. You have to know where they are, what they do on their off time. You have to know everything you possibly can know about your client or your customer who you want to come and purchase your item. Most people, you say, well, who is your client? Who is your target market? Who is your customer? They'll tell you everybody. No, everybody is not your customer. Everybody is not going to be lined up to buy your product or service. Everybody is not waiting for you to put something out so that they can go get it, because everybody is just not your customer. You have a certain type of customer. You have a certain customer that makes a certain amount of money. You have a certain customer that, does a certain thing on the weekend. You have a certain customer that just has a certain outline for who they are and what they do. And until you know who that customer is, you can't target them, which is why you don't get the customers and the support that you need in your business in order for it to be a sustainable brand, in order for it to be a sustainable company, in order for it to be something that somebody wants to support. So to just kind of cap it off, because this video has actually gotten a lot longer than I wanted it to be, people are not supporting black businesses. People are not supporting white businesses. People are not supporting Asian, Hispanic businesses, not because they're bad businesses. People aren't supporting them because they don't know that you exist. People are not supporting them because you're not doing what you have to do to make sure that your company is in the face of your customers. They should constantly be seeing you. They should constantly be hearing what you do. They should constantly have your brand, your logo, your colors, your taglines. They should be constantly knowing who you are, so that they can associate you with something. And when I think of, oh wow, I need to go get so and so, bam, I'm gonna go get it from them, because that's what comes to my head. And it comes to my head because you've been beating it down my throat. You know, like you'll be sitting there and you'll be watching your show and you'll see there's these same commercials coming on over and over and over again. They've paid a lot of money to be there because they need to program you to come and buy their products. They need to program you to associate them with something that you need. And if you can't do that, you can't capture an audience. You cannot get the customers that you need to sustain your business. So it doesn't matter whether you're a black business, a white business, Asian, Hispanic business, whatever the situation may be, you're not being supported because people don't know you exist. So, if you want the support, do the work. I know people are going to be mad and I'm going to get some backlash from this video, and I'm fine with that because I love a healthy debate. And I'll even take part in an unhealthy debate in a healthy way. So, yeah, it's not really about black business. It's about good business and knowing business and being knowledgeable in your industry and, you know, those sorts of things. You got to get yourself out there for me to know that you exist, and then you get the support.